On Saturday, the second final day of the summit at the G77 and China takes place at the Havana Convention Center in Cuba. Ecuador's National Electoral Council sent 95 technical kits to 3 special constituencies abroad to support the October 15 elections in those areas. Occupying Israeli forces carried out a series of attacks to Northern Gaza on Friday night and early Saturday morning. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Razabal from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Saturday, the second and final day of the summit of the G77 and China takes place at the Havana Convention Center in Cuba. Friday's meeting made significant progress in the construction of a space for reaching agreements on historical demands, such as the need for a new international economic order, the rejection of a coercive measure against countries, as well as situations related to the concentration of wealth or the growth of poverty with a state vision. The adoption of final document focused on the global challenges in science, technology, and innovation will seal Saturday's convention in Havana. Several presidents, including the President of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, are scheduled to appear on this last day, in addition to the parallel program of the guests invited to the meeting. The Prime Minister of National Security and Public Administration and Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investments of Barbados, Mia Motley, made a strong reference in his speech to the use of technology as well as those who use and control them.
There is no doubt, my friends, that the world in which we live is experiencing unprecedented crises, multiple. And it has done so at a time when mankind has attained more scientific engineering and technological progress than at any other time in history. The difficulty is that, like with all else, inventions can be used either for noble causes or wicked purposes. This means 2 things. First, our awareness and alertness must be constant. And secondly, it does matter, as we heard from my dear brother Prime Minister Gonzalez this morning, who owns and who controls the technology. So why must we be alert now? Because, like many other temptations from time immemorial, our reliance on things that allow us great convenience and happiness cause us to be easy prey. Easy prey if we do not remember our purpose and our mission.
For his part, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and President of SELAC, Ralph Gonsalves, insisted on the subject at the summit and emphasized on the need for solidarity among each of our nations.
In everything but the subject today of this conference, of this summit, science, technology, and innovation. And it's not isolated. This and the Global Digital Compact are not isolated from the Sustainable Development Goals. And climate finance, and financing for development, and the reform of the international financial institutions, and of the United Nations Security Council, and for reparations for native genocide and the enslavement of African bodies. All of these matters, though they are different and segmentalized, they constitute, in my view, a composite whole. And it is in that frame that I urge we address our subject, always in solidarity with one another.
Bolivian Vice President David Choquehuanca, on the other hand, blamed capitalism for the present poverty of the world and said that the welfare they are demanding is not of the Western civilization but one based on the people's own roots and culture of life.
The right to welfare that we demand for our countries is in no way the development of the Western civilization that has endangered the planet and Mother Earth. We cannot keep following the Western capitalist path that is to blame for the poverty in the world. It's time to build and rebuild our own path based on our roots, values, and codes regarding the culture of life.
Argentinian President Alberto Fernandez referred, among other things, to the difficulties faced by global South countries to overcome the financial consequences of climate change and natural catastrophes, and how the international financial institutions controlled by the United States made it even more difficult for those countries to recover.
For that situation to change, to be altered, the first thing to do is to change the financial international system that keeps on working with the same logics. Once again, you see the World Bank and the IMF applying the orthodox logics that took us to this crisis state, this state of income concentration and the distribution of poverty around the world. How much more can we endure this? How much more can we go on without changing this?
The president of the Palestinian state, Mahmoud Abbas, referred to the struggle of the Palestinian people for its independence and its determination to overcome all obstacles to achieve it.
The Palestinian people, with the support of the Group of 77 and China, which we had the honor of chairing in 2019, are determined to overcome the historical injustice that has stifled their development and hindered their aspirations for a century. As we speak, Israel's policies and practices seek to entrench its settler colonial occupation and impose the reality of apartheid, which must not be tolerated.
Ethiopia's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Demeke Mekonnen, spoke about how coercive measures hinder the potential to develop technology and the economy.
Science, technology, and innovation remain crucial to speeding up economic transformation and addressing underdevelopment. Unfortunately, our potential is constrained by limited access to scientific knowledge and technology. As historical disparity in innovative capacity hampers the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, Ethiopia calls for the genuine reform of global institutions to accommodate inclusive decision-making opportunities that prioritize the interest of the global South. On top of this, unilateral sanctions and coercive economic measures violating the United Nations principles and international law affect progress in science, technology, and economic development. Ethiopia rejects any unilateral sanctions and coercive economic measures imposed upon developing countries and calls for their removal as a gesture of goodwill for global harmony.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you find news in different formats, new dates, and more. Other studies coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The first day of the high-level discussions of the Group 77 and China Summit concluded in Havana, which focused on the progress towards a united approach of the countries of the Global South. More details with our correspondent Gladys Quesada.
This September 15th, Havana gathered the leaders of the Global South as leaders of underdeveloped countries as well as of nations that do not abide by the hegemonic rules look for consensus, tactics, and strategies with the purpose of outlining a guide for the action of the countries of the South and enhance South-South cooperation under the banner of technology, science, and innovation. The day began with the official welcoming ceremony by the host President Miguel Díaz-Canel to representatives of the over 130 countries attending the summit.
The peoples of the South are the ones that have more poverty, hunger, misery, death for curable diseases, illiteracy, human displacements, and other consequences of underdevelopment. Many of our nations are called poor when in fact they should be called impoverished nations. And we have to revert that condition in which we have been stuck as a result of colonial centuries of dependence, because the South can no longer cope with these unfortunate issues. Those who raise cities out of the blood and sweat of the nations of the South are suffering already, and they will suffer more in the future, the consequence of economic imbalances that were the result of plunder. We are traveling on the same boat, although some are VIP passengers and others are their servants.
In his speech, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres referred to the centuries of injustice and neglect of the countries of the South.
Richer countries who are with COVID vaccines while the pandemic ran rampant in the Global South. E quiero aprovechar este momento para felicitar.
And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Cuba for the successful development in the vaccines. Vaccines have been used not only in the people of Cuba, but also Cuba have been generous enough to use these vaccines in other peoples which were victims of inequality to international access to the vaccines.
For his part, Xi Liu, the representative of China, stressed the importance of rethinking the global dynamics and assured that China will always be a friend of the Global South and the G77.
We must call on the entire international community to place development front and center on the international agenda, and we must urge developed countries to deliver on their development assistance commitments. We must strengthen the voice and representation of developing countries in global governance based on the principles of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits.
Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros called for a higher level of practical cooperation in science and technology. The 21st century, he said, must be the century of the countries of the South.
This is our house. This is our family. This is a space where we are all equal, where nobody tries to impose or nominate or plunder or exclude anybody or humiliate. This is a great big African, Asian, Latin American, Caribbean family. The South countries. The G77 will be celebrating its 60th anniversary, and later on the fact that China joined us. Next year we will have the summit in Uganda. We wish Uganda all success in the holding of that significant summit.
And the Prime Minister of Barbados emphasized education as a tool to face the challenges of the future and said that commitments are empty promises if there is no real action.
There is no doubt, my friends, that the world in which we live is experiencing unprecedented crises, multiple. And it has done so at a time when mankind has attained more scientific engineering and technological progress than at any other time in history. The difficulty is that, like with all else, inventions can be used either for noble causes or wicked purposes. This means two things. First, our awareness and alertness must be constant. And secondly, it does matter, as we heard from my dear brother Prime Minister Gonzalez this morning, who owns and who controls the technology. So why must we be alert now? Because, like many other temptations from time immemorial, our reliance on things that allow us great convenience and happiness cause us to be easy prey. Easy prey if we do not remember our purpose and our mission.
Until this September 16th, the more than 100 high-level delegations participated in the summit of the Group of 77 and China in Havana will be debating to approve a final declaration already agreed upon and described as progressive and as of universal character, with a positive and constructive tone firmly attached to the defense of the right to the development. Gladys Quesada, TeleSUR English, Havana.
We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's more recent events. Final show break, don't go away. And we sit at the summit's venue with our colleague Gladys Quesada, who has the latest on today's Paramount event. Hello, Gladys.
Hello, Adeneb, and yes, we stay here in the briefing room of the G77 and China Summit, reporting for you all the latest details, the updates in the events. Yesterday was the first session, the first day of debates, and the first day of interventions and remarks by the presidents and other high top officials from every country. Yesterday was an unusual day because the presidents and the speakers went non-stop until the official dinner at 8 p.m. So the session had no recess, had no time for stop in their sessions and the working. Also, yesterday had some highlights and had some Parliament moments that I wanted to resume for you and I wanted to highlight and stress for you. Yesterday, the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, and the Foreign Minister of Mexico, Alicia Bárcena, both of them voiced their will to rejoin the talks with the G77 regarding their membership to the bloc and regarding their participation in the Global South as the Unity and ASA Association. Also, yesterday, the historical leader of the revolution in Cuba, Raúl Castro Ruz, met with some of the presidents and the representatives, and he received them at the Palace of the Revolution. That was one of the main highlights because that's one of the main events aside or parallel to the summit. Also, as we have acknowledged and we have into account, yesterday there were 49 speakers who took the floor at the summit to address the quota and the fora there. But tomorrow, I beg your pardon, today, we will have other 49 speakers that will cover the 114 delegations, because out of those, 98 asked the floor for yesterday and today. So we are expecting other interventions, and as yesterday we had the interventions or the addresses of Argentina, of Namibia, of Bongo, of other countries and presidents. Today, we are expecting St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Brazil, Trinidad and Tobago, South Africa, Niger, Chile, Syria, Mali, India, Honduras, Haiti, Morocco, and Libya. And also, maybe we will listen to the addresses and the remarks of Guatemala, Ecuador, Uruguay, and Peru. So today is expected a grand or a large presence from Latin American speakers and also from Africa. Those are two regions that are strongholds of the Global South, as Africa is the newest or is the one that is shifting the reality, shifting their economic and geopolitical situation. and Latin America as a bastion of resources and as a bastion of change to another models and to another paradigms. So far, this is what I can tell you. This is all the details and advances for today, but in further missions, I will be with you to give you all the resumes, all the summarizes, and all the details regarding this summit that is underway in Havana, Cuba, the capital today of the Global South. To you.
Thank you, Gladys Quesada, for reporting us from the summit.
Thanks to you, Are.
Okay. Ecuador's National Electoral Council, CNN, sends 95 technical kits to the special constituencies abroad to support the October 15 elections in those areas. The kits include laptops, scanners, cables, and other technical resources which will be tested during mock election on October 1st. Last August 20, only 51,000 Ecuadorians of the 120,000 registered abroad were able to exercise their right to vote, as the technical equipment presented many failures. In addition to determining the pending assembly members, Ecuadorians inside and outside the country will elect the next president of the nation on October 15. Israeli forces carried out a series of attacks on Northern Gaza on Friday night and early Saturday morning. The attack by the occupying forces began with the repression of a Palestinian protest in support of the Holy Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Palestinian prisoners. The citizens of Korni who participated in the mobilization were attacked with bullets and tear gas. As a result of this attack, the Ministry of Health confirmed that 12 Palestinian citizens were wounded by bullets. Later, the occupying troops attacked with drones in north of the Strip and destroyed an observation post of the Islamic persistent movement Hamas. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSURenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Ana Razabal. Thank you for watching.